Jeremy's background is really neat. He gave up professional soccer to become a pastor. So Jeremy approached my dad and asked if he could get to know me. My dad told me, he's like, yeah, Jeremy asked about you. What do you think about this guy? And I'm definitely attracted to him.
Anxiously awaiting you making it to the house there, but what's on your mind, Jeremy?
It has really been a privilege getting to know Ginger, your daughter, and I just wanted to speak with you and ask you about having the opportunity to court your daughter. And so I wanted to ask your permission for that.
From Without a Crystal Ball. Welcome back to my channel. It is Monday, August 9th, and we are here with round four. That was 8. 4. I was trying to do like a double 4, but 4. Fourth video of the day. The first 2 videos, one was about Jill and a cross collaboration with the roll-offs. I mean, just kidding. The second was another Duggar collaboration with the Bates, and now we're just going to talk about the Duggars by themselves. And it's actually not about the Duggars. It's about Jeremy and Ginger and all the shenanigans that they have going on. So I told you a couple weeks ago that Jeremy opened up this TikTok, and he has been, posting about religion. Now he has posted 2 more TikToks about how to study the Bible and how to pray. Nothing at all earth-shattering. I've noticed a lot with Jeremy that he regurgitates a lot of what he's been learning at the Master's Seminary, where he is espousing a lot of the beliefs of John MacArthur. But every once in a while, I see a quote or more, and I think that there's an indirect sort of message, per se. Message to the Duggars about what's going on with Josh. So we know that one of the biggest sticking points between Jeremy and Jim Bob is that they have very different philosophical beliefs, and it's the theological beliefs, actually. One of them is a Calvinist, one of them is not, and that theological difference almost cost Jeremy his relationship with his wife, because Jim Bob does not believe in Calvinism. He does not believe that there's only a certain select amount of people that are able to get into heaven, and that just believing in God and being saved by Jesus is enough to grant you into heaven, whereas the Calvinists do not live like that. So in the world of Calvinism, Jeremy is in the peak of learning all of the things, but he's also in this other subset of world that's dictated by John MacArthur. And again, whoa, box I don't want to go into. But Jeremy is the kind of believer that, much like Jim Bob, I think sometimes they're almost one and the same, because they both believe that their way of believing is the only way to believe. And this is always the part where I always think it's weird, because I know, for instance, when I was a believer, I just felt like everyone has a right to believe however they want. And I never felt like it was my job to tell people, like, you're believing wrong. You know what I mean? And that's just, I feel like, what Jeremy does, like, a lot. But I saw this on his Twitter, and I was like, whoa, okay. And then I saw something else on his Instagram, and I was like, whoa. And then I noticed other people were talking about it, and I was like, okay, so it can't just be me that saw this message and thought it was maybe a jab at Jim Bob or at Josh, but let's dig into it. So there was 2 separate tweets that he made that I felt were directed at Jim Bob. And it's simply because of their continued disagreements about their theology. The first one, I was like, this is for Jim Bob. And I could be wrong, but it feels like for Jim Bob. And I only feel like this is for Jim Bob because I feel like Christians, they subtweet like Bible passages at each other because they want to shade one another, but it's not Christian like to be cruel to people or to say what you think. And so you have to like veil it in a Bible passage, and that's supposed to be like who you're talking about. Derek Dillard does this a lot with Jim Bob too. But he said this, and it's a quote from George Whitefield. My preaching in the fields may displease some timorous, bigoted men, but I am thoroughly persuaded it pleases God. And why should I fear anything else? So his preaching and his belief system has offended people, mainly Jim Bob Duggar. Jim Bob is not a Calvinist. Jim Bob does not ascribe to this belief system. Jim Bob believes that all people are saved. And if you don't believe like Jim Bob, he doesn't believe like you guys can be in the same breath. Like the IBLP and the Fundamentalist Baptists, for the most part, are not Calvinists. Now, that's not to say that some of them aren't, but it's just a sticking point for them and Jim Bob and his friends. So the bigoted man, I'm guessing, is Jim Bob and all the other believers that don't believe like him, who get frustrated with what he preaches and what he says. But he's just saying that he doesn't care if you don't like it. And he says, like, I don't care if you don't like it. God likes it. So screw you, Jim Bob. That's just me in my mind saying that. The other one that he said is, sometimes our witness to Christ expose and denounce evil as well as proclaim good news. To be truth must reveal error. And to be good must expose evil. And that's a quote by James Montgomery Boyce. In order to be a witness to Christ, not only are you supposed to share the good news, because that's like the big part of the Bible, is that you want to spread the good news. And the good news is the word of the Lord, and it's the good news of Jesus Christ. And, you know, that's what Paul did when he was running around all the different cities, and his letters to Corinthians and to all the different Romans and all the different towns was him spreading the good news. And then you spreading the good news is basically telling people that the good news is that if you believe in Jesus, all these great things can happen. And Jeremy says, but you can do that, but you also have to tell people and expose bad things when they happen. One of the things that I've noticed about Jim Bob and his subset of believers in the IBLP is they for sure like to point out all the evils that are out there, but they love to talk about forgiveness. And they also love to say that it's not up for them to judge, even though they literally judge everything. And Jim Bob and Michelle have not denounced at all what has happened to Josh. They have not at all said that this is bad or that he's done something bad. Instead, they have just sort of stand like in the mud, right? And just say like, we love Anna and Josh very much and we pray for the truth, right? And Jeremy is saying that in order for Jim Bob, I think, to be a Christian, he would need to actually share the truth, admit the error, expose the evil. So the error, not telling anyone about what happened with Josh, the error covering up what Josh had done to people, the error minimizing what Josh had done to people, the error of misleading the public about the raid that happened, the error of even misleading the public once the arrest happened and suggesting that they just want the truth, right? And he is saying that in order for you to be good, you must expose evil too. I don't know if you ever listened to Jeremy preach, but his preaching is not, I would say, uplifting. I don't know. It's very like, it reminds me of like damnation, going to hell, like everything's bad and you have to be like a Christian for everything to be good, but you're not good enough. And it's gloom, doom, and just overall, I feel like a sense of guilt and shame when I listen to what he preaches. Not at all the kind of churches that I grew up in. Well, maybe sort of, but not the kind of churches I went to as an adult. And so I think it's ironic, or maybe it's him just trying to justify that he likes to point out the bad things and that it's his job to point out the evil. But to be honest, this definitely feels like more like a jab at Jim Bob and Josh. And honestly, I don't think there's been a lot of interaction between Jinger and her side of the family. You know, she hasn't gone home in quite a while, which I also find interesting. She had the baby and her mom was there, right? She had the baby last November and she saw them for Jed's wedding. And I think that was the last time she was back. She has not been back home since his arrest. So that's like 5 months and she doesn't interact with them very much on her Instagram anymore. And she seems to be like very rooted now in her California life. So Jeremy is like throwing shade at Jim Bob. And then there was one other quote that, I'm sorry, there was many. I said there was only 2, but there was 3. This one, I think, again, I feel like is for Jim Bob because it's about extreme beliefs. And it says this: balance in life and theology is not cowardice, compromise, or passivity. Balance is Christ-likeness. And then he shared a quote, a passage from John. And the Word became flesh and dwelt among us, and we have seen his glory, glory as the only Son from the Father, full of grace and truth. So balance in life and theology is not cowardice. So one of his biggest things is that he doesn't like legalism because he feels like it is too black and white and it's too like legal. Too many rules, too many things you have to do to get to heaven, too many good deeds that you have to get done. And Jeremy does not believe in good deeds. He does not believe in the rules. He doesn't like legalism. Legalism is who? Jim Bob Duggar. So I sometimes wonder how deep this rift is and how much wider it's gotten, where he's like, Jim Bob, you need to talk about the evil. You need to expose the evil. And I'm not a coward because I have balance in my Christianity and you're the one who doesn't. Now, of course, you guys will say that I'm reaching. Some of you will. But I honestly believe in my whole heart that these are the kinds of people that are never going to outwardly say, Jim Bob, expose him, because they're not going to play that game in the media. They're not going to do that. They're going to be too cognizant of their own perception, so much so that they posted a TikTok the other day laughing at people falling down, okay? And by the way, if you want to laugh at people falling down, it's not that big of a deal, but they posted the TikTok on their Amazed account where they were promising to spread hope. And so mocking, laughing at someone falling down doesn't really feel like you're spreading hope. It just kind of feels like you're, I don't know, laughing at someone else's misfortune. So people were giving them a lot of, like, they were dragging them. And so they deleted the TikTok after I posted it and said people were dragging them. Within minutes, it was deleted from their TikTok. So I'm like, okay, they removed this TikTok because they really care so much about you believing that they're so Christ-like, which is why I don't believe they would ever be like, Jim Bob, you're evil, because then that wouldn't be Christ-like. So they have to use like quotes and the Bible to shame them and speak out, sadly. So what do you think about this? Jim Bob, Josh, or Katie? I don't agree. Tell me in the comments below. Bye, guys.